Welcome to District Dialogue. I'm Commissioner Henry Mitchell, the third District 1 Commissioner of Douglas County. And today, got an interesting story we're going to be talking about. We're talking E911. Now today we're going to talk about the E911 operation, how it all goes down, what happens when you hit 911, like when it happens, what kind of response would you get, or what happens next. We're going to talk about the backup system and the new equipment that's coming the E911 way. So with that being said, let me just introduce the young lady, and I'll allow her to introduce herself. That's the director of E911, kind of how it all goes and her position and what she does and how does it all come together. So I'm going to toss it over to you. So could you introduce yourself to the District Dialogue family as to your position, who you are, and how this kind of evolves into what we call 911?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. And thank you for having this district dialogue. I am Katrina Harley. I am the E911 director for Douglas County.
Okay. So, that was real nice and easy. So now what is it that you do? Because I know I look at it. I pick up 911. I pick up my phone, I dial 911.
Yes.
Kind of walk me through what happens and how that goes. What's the process?
So before we start with the process,
Okay.
I think that it's important to establish a history of how 911 came to be.
Absolutely. We'll start there.
All righty. So the very first phone call, and I'm going to quiz you.
Uh-oh.
The very first phone call, which state would you guess the first 911 call was made in?
The state, I would say my state, Georgia, but am I incorrect in that statement?
The very first 911 phone call was actually made in 1968 in Haleyville, Alabama. Haleyville, Alabama.
Okay.
And so 911 was established as an easy to remember emergency phone number.
Understood.
Because prior to, folks were having to remember 7-digit phone numbers. And
Yes.
if you had visitors,
Yes.
they wouldn't know who to call.
Yes.
And so 911 established a universal phone number in Haleyville, Alabama.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And that's how to evolve from that to now where we are. But with that being said, though, I never thought about it that way, though. Like definitely the history of E911. And so this number, who came up with 911, though? I mean, what did that come from?
Well, it was a combination.
Okay.
Of telephony companies,
Okay.
as well as the government, just kind of establishing what it looked like to have a universal phone number. And a lot of times I always tell folks, you have a lot of these 911 type shows and movies,
Yes.
and that is actually not what 911 looks like at all. It is definitely one of those professions that has evolved over the years.
Yes.
When 911 first came about, we had what was called basic 911. So basic 911 just gave you the ability to dial 911. And so a lot of times when people see the E in front of E911, that's actually for enhanced. And that's where we are in Douglas County.
I thought it was emergency, but okay, all right, okay.
It's enhanced.
Okay.
And so with that enhanced 911, what that gave us was the ability to have what we call the ANI and ALI. ANI, A-N-I, is automatic number identifier, and ALI is automatic location identifier. Because when 911 was first established, of course, we used phone numbers and static addresses to know where folks were in emergencies, because cell phones, of course, didn't exist.
Right, yes.
Right.
So it was analog more of anything. And
Yes.
Oh, wow. Never thought about it that way, though. And so now we are where? It's so evolved from the history from where you just started from. And now we are where?
So when cell phones came out, of course, that presented a new challenge for the industry. Because now, how do we locate folks when they are moving?
Moving and towers kind of bouncing and all that kind of good stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what happened with that was when these cell phones came out, and you have a cell phone, it triangulates with a cell phone tower. And so I like to, in our county, use, say, Riverside as an example. If you're somewhere on Riverside and you call from a cell phone, you might reach Douglas County, you might reach Fulton County, or you might reach Cobb County.
So how all that works, though? I mean, with that being said, and that's a great example. When you're bouncing and pinging and all this other stuff, how do you, as an operation E911, know where I am based off that ping?
So we get the latitude and longitude.
Okay.
Within 1,000 feet. And so now the telephony companies are actually doing a better job of being able to provide a more precise location. So even if you get another PSAP, what we call a public safety answering point, and so that's just simply another 911 center, typically those operators immediately know where you are and where that call needs to go.
Because when the analog stage was, once I dial from my house or whatever, it analog you straight to where I am based on that connectivity of that log.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we got the Annie and the Alley,
Okay.
the number identifier and the automatic location identifier. And so with those phones from those landline phones from a residence, we would know exactly where you were, because that is the way that the addresses were pulled to go to the 911 center, to the enhanced 911 centers.
I got to ask as well too, though, because it's on the, so but with that though, with the cell phones, and let's say I've got a cell phone, but my cell phone is originating from Missouri. However, but I'm in Georgia, and I make a call of E911 to say I need help. That's not confusing to the operations of what you do, or technology have advanced that much to where it can actually say, yes, this cell phone user is out of Missouri. However, he's in Atlanta now making an emergency phone call, I guess. No.
So it's still going to triangulate to the closest public safety answering point.
Got it.
And that public safety answering point will actually receive that cell phone number. And so, that's the way that call would still be routed to the nearest public safety answering point that cell phone pings off of with those cell phone towers.
Even though I'm originating my cell phone company of T-Mobile out of Missouri, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Got it. That's interesting.
That's
interesting. Wow. There's a lot that goes on here at E911.
There is.
And we're going to dive into a whole lot of stuff. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to bring up a couple other things like the backup system and the next gen stuff that's forthcoming. Why don't we do that? Can we do that? Can
we absolutely
can you stick around?
can.
Okay. So we're going to come back. We're going to come back with some more high-tech stuff that you guys are going to really enjoy as to how this operation goes, yet along how that pinging goes to the equipment that's used with you guys. So stick around. More of District Dialogue coming back with you right here with Commissioner Henry Mitchell III.
When disaster strikes, every second counts. That's why Douglas County is launching a new way to keep you safe and informed. Introducing Alert Douglas, the county's new emergency notification system, a more powerful, reliable tool that delivers critical updates straight to you. Get real-time alerts to your phone, email, or text so you can make quick decisions and stay prepared no matter where you are. Here's what's important. Even if you were signed up for our previous alert system, you'll need to register again for Alert Douglas to keep receiving notifications. To sign up, just scan the QR code on your screen or visit douglascountyga.gov. You'll be able to choose how you want to receive alerts, customize weather notifications, share info to help first responders, and protect the people you care most about. Let's make sure everyone in Douglas County is connected and protected. Because when emergencies happen, we're stronger together. Sign up today for Alert Douglas. Stay informed, stay safe, stay prepared.
Welcome back to District Dialogue. Again, I'm Commissioner Henry Mitchell III. And as I left you guys with the mere fact of we're talking E911. And when we left, we were talking about a lot of things that happens here with you guys.
Yes.
And I was talking about, my cell phone originates in Missouri. My T-Mobile, I bought the phone in Missouri when I lived in Missouri. Now I'm making this up now, so and when I make the call to 911 in Douglasville, kind of walk us through kind of how you guys, with your equipment and your IT stuff and all that stuff that you guys do here, make sure that that call, even though my cell phone service is out of Missouri, but I'm here with an emergency call and I hit 911. Talk to the District Dialogue family, kind of how that all kind of unfolds and get you to the right, so you can send the sheriff and the fire and anybody else to the right location as to where I am.
Exactly. So when we look at cell phone technology, so we talked about how that most phone calls used to originate from a landline phone.
That's correct. That's
And
where we started.
so
Yes.
As folks in technology has evolved, we no longer have a lot of landline phones anymore.
Correct.
So now we're looking at about 85-90% of our callers calls originating from cellular devices.
Yes, yes.
And so that technology has had to change a lot, and 911 has had to change also to meet the needs of the way that we communicate today.
Correct.
And so we enter into what's called next generation 911.
Okay.
And it's simply, how do we communicate today? We communicate via text. So there's the ability to text to 911. We communicate by live video streaming. We also have that ability to live video stream with our callers. And so if you're calling from a cell phone that originated from Missouri, but you're in Douglas County, when you dial or text 911, that call is going to be routed to the PSAP, the Public Safety Answering Point, or 911 Center, where you physically are. And so, and that's a very seamless process. And as we enter into next generation 911, where we talked about the latitude and longitude before, we'll have a more precise location, because remember, we talked about analog, and so now we're moving to a whole nother phase with our 911 infrastructure. And that's probably the biggest part of next generation 911 is the changing of that infrastructure.
That's interesting though. So technology has kind of just moved us from landline analog to now digital cell phones and
fiber.
Yes. And fiber, you're right. And so keeping up with that type of run in technology, how is E911 keeping up? Because I think you mentioned next gen. I'm assuming that's kind of is it still E911, or is it going to be a different letter as to the next gen moving in that direction to kind of keep at least our community and other communities safe? Yeah.
So we actually already have elements of next generation 911, and yourself and the Board of Commissioners actually approved us moving forward with changing out that infrastructure, that 911 infrastructure. And, just for the general public's knowledge, it's not a matter of if we have the ability to do that, it's when, because what will happen and what is happening is our telephony companies will no longer support that old legacy, what they call legacy infrastructure past 2029. And so for Douglas County and for surrounding counties, we're already starting to see wear and tear on those legacy systems. And so as we move towards next generation 911 with changing out our infrastructure, when we used Riverside as an example, for example, we'll have an even better concrete location, because next generation 911 uses technology from GIS, which is our Geographic Information System, to pinpoint those addresses 100%.
So you tell me that we can video chat E911.
Yes.
We can text, and no matter how that call comes in to you, text, video chat, whatever, you guys are prepared, and your preparedness is ready to kind of act upon that, I guess.
Yes. So we have a system that actually allows us to send a link to a caller, and once they accept the link, we can see live video of what's actually happening. And the great thing about it is we also have another component to it that's called Responder Connect, that we can connect that to our first responders that will give them a more efficient response to be able to actually see what's happening. 911, we get callers, of course, that call on their worst days.
Yes.
And so someone might call because there's someone that's been cut. And so a lot of times that caller may call hysterically and say that someone's been cut. We could actually send a link to that person and send that link to our EMS so that they can actually see, is this a major cut or is this something else? And so it provides a more efficient response and safety for our citizens.
But let me add because I've had a friend that has called 911 and was in the closet, and I know this is kind of interesting, was in the closet while someone was burglarizing their apartment. And they made the call and the whisper, or however they did this, but however it went down, it really was interesting how they relayed the message back to E911 to kind of say where she was, what they were doing, and within minutes, the police was there. So it's just not a cut or a CPR. It's also some unique moments where our sheriff and police need to get out there in a real hostile situation, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so with that, if we have callers that are unable to speak because there may be someone that is actively in their home, we also have that ability to text to 911 so that voice conversation, it just may not be safe to have. Of course, we always want our callers to call 911. That's the best way. But if there is a situation where they simply cannot, we have the ability to text to 911.
And that was interesting. Like I said, I just thought about it when you were saying that, though. But and everything worked out, and the police got there in plenty of time and caught the guys when they was trying on their way out, I guess, not realizing that someone was in the house. But here nor there. So we're going to talk more about, I like the next gen. I think for those of us who give us a true better understanding, which I think you've done a great job on the next gen software that we've allowed you to and your team to now use to kind of stay ahead of the curve. And before we break right quick here though, talk a little bit about how you and your team, especially you, are on various boards that's kind of leading the charge on what next gen E911 looks like in the future though.
Yes. So our Georgia Emergency Communications Authority, which was established by the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, has worked tirelessly in our state because next generation 911 is very expensive.
Yes.
And so that has been a conversation and topic throughout the entire United States.
Yes.
But particularly in Georgia, as we move forward with potentially a statewide solution, because what EZNet is also, and I say next generation 911 EZNet kind of interchangeably, it's a network of networks. So for example, earlier this year last year with Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, when the mountainous area of North Carolina was struck with that hurricane, their 911 calls were able to be received on the coast of North Carolina. And so what it does is it connects all of the 911 centers. And because it is GIS based, it allows us to be able to know exactly where that call is, who it belongs to, and to be able to get help, with the idea that 911 will stay operational with the rule of 5 nines, is what we call it, 99.999% of the time. And I know you and I had some banter back and forth because you said, can we get 100%?
Right.
And I said, no, Commissioner Mitchell, 99.999.
Got it. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about kind of what happens, what happens when you guys go down? How do we is there such thing as E911 is down, or hey, I'm gonna put you on hold and we'll come back in a few minutes? I don't think has it ever exist? Or if it does, what are we planning on as a backup system? Like, what are we gonna do next in all of this? So when we come back, We're going to talk more E911 with my director here, and we're going to talk about what that backup system looked like and how does it all kind of evolves into what happens in the situations when there's a hurricane and it knocks out one building. What do we do next? Because you still will make the call, 911, and you expect someone to be on the other end of that call. So stick around. More of District Dialogue to come right here with Commissioner Henry Mitchell III.
When disaster strikes, every second counts. That's why Douglas County is launching a new way to keep you safe and informed. Introducing Alert Douglas, the county's new emergency notification system, a more powerful, reliable tool that delivers critical updates straight to you. Get real-time alerts to your phone, email, or text so you can make quick decisions and stay prepared no matter where you are. Here's what's important. Even if you were signed up for our previous alert system, you'll need to register again for Alert Douglas to keep receiving notifications. To sign up, just scan the QR code on your screen or visit douglascountyga.gov. You'll be able to choose how you want to receive alerts, customize weather notifications, share info to help first responders, and protect the people you care most about. Let's make sure everyone in Douglas County is connected and protected. Because when emergencies happen, we're stronger together. Sign up today for Alert Douglas. Stay informed, stay safe, stay prepared.
Welcome back to District Dialogue. Commissioner Henry Mitchell III, District 1, and it's all about E911, next gen, and the future. We've got my director here of E911. Now, when we left this earlier in the segment, we were talking about the what ifs. What if the storm comes through, the tornado blow out the building, blow out your operation? What happens? What's the backup plan, I guess what I'm getting at. What's the backup plan?
So thank you, first of all, for you said that exactly as it should be said, the what ifs. 911 always works in the what ifs because we can't afford for 911 to not be operational.
Correct. Right.
Because, and even if things happen, those things should be seamless to our public and to our citizens and visitors to our county.
Correct.
But things do happen. And so we have to prepare for them.
That's that 0.01% that you was talking about that I needed.
The
Okay.
99.999.
Right.
Yes. So when things do happen, we have to ensure that those things are seamless to our public. Because what can happen if your 911 system is non-operational is you can have panic and chaos.
Yes.
And so our job is to mitigate that panic and chaos by having a seamless flow of 911, of the ability to call or text 911 to our public.
Got it.
And so to that end, we're always testing our systems, but more importantly, we are building a brand new backup center. And I think that, we've been getting some questions as to, well, why do we need a backup center? We have to have an emergency services system that is redundant, that is resilient, and that is efficient. And so our backup is kind of a miniature version of our primary center. We have, of course, it will be on a separate generator. It has its own power supply. It has its own ability to stand up the equipment that allows folks to call handling system, that allows folks to be able to dial 911.
Right. And what's good about this is that we just recently had the groundbreaking of the, and I said, it was interesting when I saw the building. I was like, this is really small. But then I had to understand kind of the backup system building and equipment and all that will go into that building.
Yes.
That's what that is for backup.
Yes.
And you're not leaving your permanent location.
No.
So, and it took me a minute to get that, but help the public to understand that you gotta have that redundancy. You gotta have a backup for the backup in case of an emergency.
Yes.
Because you don't ever want to pick up the phone, dial 911 only to find that somebody either put you on hold or, but speaking of which too though, even if that did happen, both buildings got knocked out. The backup system and this, we run in parallel, not in parallel, but we run with as a backup to the backup, meaning Fulton County or Cobb County. There's some kind of connectivity that we all can pick up each other's call in the event of a total shutdown, correct?
So now you are connecting the dots.
Okay.
Look at me. You're connecting the dots. So yes, you want to have a backup to the backup. And you mentioned that it is small, but it is a smaller version of our primary.
Yes.
But the most important thing is the 911 center is what we consider a hardened facility. So it is not construction wise, it's not built like a normal office building. It is if everything else goes down. So there's tornado proofing. There's all kinds of grounding equipment for lightning strikes and things. Because if you have something severe that happens, you want to make sure that your 911 center is standing and the ability for folks to call, because a lot of times folks see the sheriff's office or they'll see the police department or they'll see fire EMS, but it's important to always hone in that those things and those services don't get to folks without first calling or texting 911. And your backup facility is in another whole location.
Yes.
So it's miles away from your primary center, because you also want to make sure that they're not on the same power grid.
Absolutely.
And so you have those redundant systems to ensure that, again, if something should happen, that emergency services stays functioning. And we have to future-proof. Our county is growing.
Absolutely, and we're growing. But help me and help our District Dialogue family understand too, though, that who's the backup to Douglas County?
So right now we have an agreement with Fulton County to serve as our backup, and we also service theirs. And so we do that for each other as colleagues, and there's no charge to either county, because I also saw that as a question. There's no charge to either county, because we understand the importance of the resiliency in ensuring that 911 is functional for all of us. And so to that point, as we talked about Next Gen in our previous segment, Next Gen allows that network of networks, so that, and you asked the question, what happens if both go down?
Yes.
Then that's where Next Gen kicks in.
Got it.
Because then you have the network of network. And of course, because it is heavily GIS based, they will know, another agency will know immediately where that call belongs. Or if we receive a call from another jurisdiction, we'll know immediately where that call belongs, so that we can ensure that folks, not just in Douglas County, but across our state, get what they need.
What would you say to those of us who want to help and want to be a part of assuring that E911, I'm assuming, let me go back and re-ask this question. So you're normally charged a fee on your cell phone, on cell phone users, that actually funds E911 and all. So now, even though we haven't had an increase in that particular fee from the state for the last 100 years, and I'm exaggerating this, but that's kind of sort of the case, even though technology has leaps and bounds of actually improving itself, that technology costs have gone extremely high. So what is it that you're doing, yet along the commission and everybody else, to kind of make sure that we stay ahead of the curve? Because the one thing we don't want is, like I always just said earlier, someone called 911 and they're put on hold, yet along can't even get through because we're too far behind in technology. I think we as Douglas Countyans are doing well when it comes to the technology, because we're keeping you way ahead of the curve, because you're keeping us aware of the knowledge of where things are going when it comes to Next Gen and other software and things of that caliber. So is there anything in the making that's going to help us from the statewide to kind of fund these types of sources? Because as you stated earlier, there are some counties that They can't even, there's no way they're going to be able to get ahead of this curve. So the state has got to step in.
Yes.
Okay.
So the state, in and of itself, our governor enacted a House Study Committee. And so we've been meeting with, and I've gone to all of the meetings actually with our Georgia State House to discuss funding Next Generation 911, because again, it is a mandate that, we all have to make that move towards a statewide initiative
yes.
rather than mandate.
Yeah.
But it is a statewide initiative that we all move towards Next Generation 911. And so they are definitely looking at ways of being able to supplement, because, Douglas is in a unique position, and so we have some resources, but we don't have all the resources.
That's correct.
So how do we?
We have some funding. We don't have all the funding.
We don't have all the funding.
Right.
And Commissioner, really the way that I look at it is this. I'm also a caregiver, and my 77-year-old mother lives with me. And when I pick up the phone and I have to dial 911 for my own mother, I want a system that is resilient. I want a system that is redundant.
Yes.
And I want a system that is future-proof for our community.
Right.
And I want that not only for myself, but for all of the citizens that we serve and the visitors in our county.
And I'll say this, though. You've been great at, as that director of E911, to keep us ahead of the curve, meaning the commissioners, keep us ahead of the curve. You sit on these boards at the state to kind of see what's coming and what the future looks like when it comes to this. So I commend you and your staff for staying ahead and keeping us ahead of the curve, even though the funding gets a little bit of a struggle.
Yes.
But the reality of it is, we have to just make that happen, because there's no, well, we'll wait and get it later. Well, later could be someone's life that we may have screwed up on because we didn't have the right piece of technology that picks up, know where to go, and get there and save someone's life. So I think that's what's important here. So
yes.
I commend you on just
you.
that note. So, okay, wow. Well, let me first of all say thank you. Thank you for what you do and your team and all the work that you guys do, and keeping us in the know and keeping us ahead and within the state. I know we don't want to call it a mandate, but pretty much that's what it is. We got to get on board as a state to move this type of technology and or service forward. Is there anything that you would like to tell the District Dialogue family in reference to E911? Like, what's that last closing remark? I know the way to get in touch with you is dial 911.
Yes.
But could you just look into the camera and just in closing, and I don't know if there's anything that you want to just say to our District Dialogue family as to a closing remarks when it comes to what you do. And again, we thank you for all that you do. And you've been around for a while. I know not as long, it feels like you've been around for 100 years, from what you do. But you've brought a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of where we need to be as a county to make sure that our citizens are safe. So if you would, speak into the camera and just tell them kind of your closing as to what that looks like for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all, to the citizens of Douglas County. We are very, very gracious of your continued support of E911. But I would be remiss not to thank the folks in this building who are the true heroes behind the headset, the first responders. They are here morning, noon, night, weekends, holidays, even when there's inclement weather, we all bunk up and we stay here. And so I think sometimes, we get involved in the technology and everything else, but I don't ever want to forget the people that make it possible in Douglas County.
Wow. Well stated.
Thank you.
And you're right, though. It's not about the technology. It's not about how many cell phone users we have. That's not what's important, is the people.
Yes.
The people from which we serve, and especially from what you serve. And you want to make sure that when they pick up that phone and dial those numbers, somebody's on the other end of that call to help them.
Absolutely.
And that's what's important.
Yes.
Thank you again. And thank you for sharing with us here at District Dialogue. And I'm Commissioner Henry Mitchell. And just make sure you tell a friend what Douglas County is doing and how we're kind of leading the charge, and we've got the director that helps us lead that charge when it comes to E911, next gen, fiber, and you name it. We are the first responders, and we're ready to take that charge. Again, thank you for looking at District Dialogue. I'm Commissioner Henry Mitchell III. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.